Es war einmal ein Treuhusar, der litt sein Mädchen ein ganzes Jahr. Ein ganzes Jahr und noch viel mehr. Die Liebe nahm kein Ende mehr. Il était une fois du sar fidèle. Emma savait une année entière et plus encore. Enfin l'amour n'a.
This was written in 1973. So this book is a sidewalk strewn with junk, trash which I throw over my shoulders as I travel back in time to November 11th, 1922. I will come to a time in my backwards trip when November 11th was a sacred day called Armistice Day. When I was a boy, and when Dwayne Hoover was a boy, all the people of all the nations which had fought in the First World War were silent during the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the Armistice Day, which was the 11th day of the 11th month. It was during that minute in 1918 that millions upon millions of human beings stopped butchering one another. I've talked to old men who were on battlefields during that minute. They told me in one way or another that the sudden silence was the voice of God. So we still have among us some men who can remember when God spoke clearly to mankind. Armistice Day has become Veterans Day. Armistice Day was sacred. Veterans Day is not. So I will toss Veterans Day over my shoulder. Armistice Day I will keep. I don't want to throw away any sacred things. What else is sacred? Romeo and Juliet, for instance. And all music is.
I met a man this morning on a corner holding signs about all that's wrong with war it's caused to humankind. I asked if I could join him in his protest on the street. He said it's not a protest, brother, I am witnessing for peace. Good people will come gather in the struggle to exist at times of summer vigils and the sunshine pacifist. But the vigil will stand on in the rain, the snow and sleet. It's not a protest, brother, we are witnessing for peace. I met some folks this morning on a corner holding hands, singing songs of peace and hope to ring across the land. I asked if I could join them in their protest on the street. They said it's not a protest, brother, we are witnessing for peace. All the costs of war the politicians will debate with their analytic bourgeois to predict the price of hate. But the weight of war is carried by the homeless refugee. It's not a protest, brother, we are witnessing for peace. The best tribute we can pay to the fallen warrior is that their children's children will not march again to war, and the children recognize that there's no glory in their grief. It's not a protest, brother, we are witnessing for peace. The path to peace is waiting, better angels call to us with words of wisdom, seeking sacred bonds of human trust. We are witnesses in time to the power of belief. It's not a protest, brother, we are witnessing for peace. It's not a protest, brother, we are witnessing for peace.
Thank you, John. Beautiful song.
For me to get together there. It's good to see you all. Good to see you. This is a poem that was written by a man that was in the Army Artillery. And he died from Agent Orange. But it really attracted me when I saw this many years ago. It said, "You, my church, told me I was going to kill, except in war. You, my teachers, told me I was going to kill, except in war. You, my parents, told me I was going to kill, except in war. You, my friends, told me I was going to kill, except in war. You, my general, government, told me I was going to kill, except in war. And you sent me to war to kill, and I had no choice. You told me I was wrong. But now I will tell you, my church, my teachers, my parents, my friends, my government. It's not wrong to kill, except in war. It's wrong to kill, period. Thank you very much.
She said they wanted a song from World War I. And I thought about it, and I realized I didn't know any songs from World War I. But the song I'm going to play for you now is in 3 languages. It's in German, French, and English. It's got about 25 verses, but I'm only going to sing maybe 3 of them. And it's an old German folk song from 1825. But it appeared in a movie that some of you may be familiar with called Paths of Glory, which was about World War I. And it was directed by Stanley Kubrick. And there's a scene in that movie where there are all these French soldiers gathered in a cafe, and they're drinking, and the owner of the cafe comes out leading this young girl who's a prisoner of war. She's a German prisoner of war. And she sings this song, and it brings all the French soldiers to tears. So I'll see if I can do it. I probably didn't practice it quite enough, but.
Es war einmal ein Treuhusar, der litt sein Mädchen ein ganzes Jahr. Ein ganzes Jahr und noch viel mehr. Die Liebe nahm kein Ende mehr. Il était une fois du sar fidèle, aima sa belle une année entière et plus encore. Enfin l'amour n'a plus de fin. A faithful soldier once was there, who loved his girl an entire year. For one whole year and maybe more. Love has no end, no not anymore. Der Knapp, der für ins fremde Land, derweil ward ihm sein Mädchen krank. Sie ward so krank bis auf den Tod. 3 Tag, 3 Nacht sprach sie kein Wort. Le gars partit en outre-mer, sa belle tombe malade du cœur, tellement malade qu'elle se meurt. 3 jours, 3 nuits souffrit en douleur. The young boy went to a foreign land, his girl so so heartsick she could not stand. She was so ill on deathbed lane, 3 days, 3 nights in dreadful pain. Jetzt müß ich tragen ein schwarzes Kleid, das ist für mich ein großes Leid. Ein großes Leid und noch viel mehr. Die Trauer nimmt kein Ende mehr. Et comme la jeune fille était morte, il la met là sur le lit des morts. Où vais-je trouver ces jeunes costauds qui porteront ma chérie au tombeau? And since the young girl now was dead, he laid her down on dying bed. Where can I find 6 boys so strong, who'll bear my love to her rest so long?
A little over a year ago, we were traveling the countryside of northern France, and it was, in a way, good to see that it still bears the scars of the memories and the graves of hundreds and thousands of people who perished in World War I. It was striking to see that. So I'd like to just say a few words. It's been 100 years since the end of World War I was marked with the first Armistice Day. 100 years from now, war will still not be the answer. And since 1918, humankind has progressed technologically a great deal. We've developed nuclear weapons, far more destructive biological weapons, and aerial, drone, and computerized weapons that allow for more death with less direct first-hand experience. We only hear of the deaths of civilian journalists in Iraq by drones, controlled at a distance because of whistleblower Chelsea Manning. We only know of the deaths of wedding parties in Afghanistan because at great personal expense they were exposed by Edward Snowden. These people are heroes. One can only imagine the extent and depth of the horrors we do not hear of frequently, case by case, in the endless wars and the war crimes that have occurred. What is becoming apparent, though, is that we are in the throes of the death of our civilization and American empire. Trillions of our tax dollars are fueling this, as the great bulk of it goes to the military-industrial complex and the corrupt capitalist bribocracy that gives it license.
Amen.
And when I say bribocracy, I'm focusing on the primary culprit in our breakdown of democracy. I do not mean only the corruption that occurs as private companies get no-bid, multi-billion-dollar military contracts, or when privately financed mercenaries commit war crimes in Iraq, and billions of dollars go missing in the Pentagon project. But when I say bribocracy, I'm speaking of what has happened to our never very strong, but now incredibly weak democracy. It is the displacement of the idea of one person, one vote, by billions of dollars of corporate funding. And it occurs equally throughout the two major parties, and it defines the boundaries of our limited freedoms. So I say the solution is simple. Get the money out. Over 100 years ago, Republican Teddy Roosevelt spoke to the corruption of corporate money. Republican. And limited it extremely with the passage of the Tillman Act in 1907. Flash forward to 2016, and Bernie Sanders' campaign defined how to successfully fuel a political campaign with no corporate super PAC money. We could do even better by removing all private financing and providing only public financing and public media. Without this measure, there will be no ending of the endless wars. There will be no restoration of the civil rights we've lost in the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act that were approved under Obama as well as Bush. And I do not in any way mean to politicize this topic, but I mean to revolutionize this topic Without taking back our democracy, there will not be a day when our expenditures on schools, renewable energies, public transportation, and our culture far exceed our expenditures on war, as they do in every other country on this planet. There will not be a day when we close up over 1,000 military bases overseas, bring the troops home, and begin a massive infrastructure Green New Deal with those workers. And it needs to start as soon as we can, and it needs to involve electric boat, starting to make solar power panels and windmills. It needs to involve naval bases, putting people to work, building our infrastructure. And this is, if we close our eyes and envision a future that we want, this is what can happen, and we can make it happen. But the first step in that process, I would say to you, is to never again vote for someone who accepts corporate PAC money. Thank you. Power to the people.
That was the most political, non-political thing I've heard in a long time. And thank you for making us aware. There was a point that there was a movement for electric boat to make solar panels. I was involved with it, and they poo-pooed it. They were like, no, we'll never make the money that we make on submarines. Maybe not the first year, maybe not the second year, maybe not the third year. But then, you got to give a business 3 years for it to bloom. So. Anyway, are you ready for some music?
Yeah.
I'm going off to fight for Uncle Sam. I can't begin to try and understand. They send me off to die in a foreign land. Like cattle to the slaughter is what I am. You're the one I love and I'm your man. I hold no one above you, here I stand. We'll walk the streets of heaven hand in hand, hand in hand. The holy wars have come to our front door. We're fighting for the right to ask what for. With bleeding hearts and bodies, nothing more. You'll find us strewn across the desert floor. You're the one I love and I'm your man. I hold no one above you, here I stand. We'll walk the streets of heaven hand in hand, hand in hand. You soldier on, still carrying the flame. My spirit longs to be with you again. Until that day I'm singing this refrain. You're the one I love and I'm your man. I hold no one above you, here I stand. We'll walk the streets of heaven hand in hand, hand in hand. You're the one I love and I'm your man. stay. We'll walk the streets of heaven hand in hand, hand in hand.
So maybe we could finish with this one.
I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna shake hands with my brothers and sisters down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna shake hands with my brothers and sisters down by the riverside. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. 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 I'm gonna drive my Chevrolet coupe down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna drive my Chevrolet coupe down by the riverside. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more.
This one's called Lay Your Burden Down.
And it's got a repetitive chorus that you'll all understand.
Yeah, I'll teach you the chorus right now. It only has 3 words in it. Maybe 2. Yeah, 2. I'm so tired, so tired, so tired, so tired. You've been walking down a long road, lay your burden down. You've been walking down a long road, lay your burden down. And I'm so tired, so tired, so tired, so tired. You've been walking down a long road, lay
Listen